Hello everyone. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. A couple cards using some of the latest Pretty Pink Posh release, which I always sound like a broken record, but it's true. It's really good. It's really cute. Love. I will have a link to the release in the description box below the video so you can check out all the new goodies. This is my first video using some of it. There will be more coming. And for today's cards, I did some super simple watercoloring using Distress inks. I made it glittery. Lerv. Did some shimmer, found some oldie but goodie bling, all the fun things. So, as always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps, pays the bills, keeps the lights on, keeps me bringing out content. And yeah, that's it for the chatter. Let's get into making the cards. So I'm using the new Hummingbird Floral little stamp set. So cute, so cute. And I've got some Distress watercolor paper, put it in my MISTI, and I'm able to fit all of the images from the set onto this A2 size panel of watercolor paper. So I got everything lined up, making sure there's space around all of it because I'm going to die cut them all once I'm done. And then I used my anti-static powder tool on the watercolor paper. That just prevents the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamp areas. And I'm inking up and stamping the images with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I'm going to coat them with clear embossing powder and then melt that. Now, as usual, these don't have to be heat embossed. I could just go in and start watercoloring. I just like heat embossing the images most of the time because it creates that raised edge and it keeps things a little more contained. And then I don't have to worry about, one area bleeding into the next, anything like that. Plus, depending on the type of embossing powder I'm using, today I'm just using regular clear, so that'll also make the stamp lines like a little bit shiny, so why not? And then I did this twice because it's like while I've got everything lined up, why not? And if I'd wanted to, I could just have stamped like extra panels to just save for future projects. But I just did the two. Once I had the clear embossing powder on them, melted that with my heat tool until everything was smooth and shiny. I always tilt it back and forth in the light so that if there's any dull or grainy looking areas, I can see them and then just hit that with a heat tool, get it all melted. We're good to go. So for the watercoloring, I am using my Distress inks. Any water reactive ink will work. You could also use just regular watercolors. I jump around all the different options because that's just what I like to do. So I was like, I haven't used my Distress inks in a while, so let's pull those out and use them. So I did list all the specific colors that I used. Kind of a rainbow of colors along with a couple extras, like just lighter colors of, with salvage patina and shaded lilac. And then 2 greens, because I do like to mix my greens when it comes to the Distress colors. And then a smidge of black soot. I'm only going to use a teeniest bit of that just for the little hummingbird beaks. And then what I'm doing to make them glittery, I'm going to use my Tonic Nuvo Clear Aqua Shimmer pen. Now, I could technically paint with this, like use the shimmer pen to pick up the color and just paint directly with that. However, I don't like doing that very often because it can start to absorb like right through the brush, like the color, and I don't want to contaminate, the rest of the pen because I want it to stay clear. So I prefer to do it like this. I just kind of squeeze it. Normally I tell people do not squeeze the Aqua Shimmer pens other than the very first time you use it to like get the shimmer to start coming out. But my pen, like I want some on my palette. Also, mine is like on its last legs. Like I've almost fully used this one up. And yeah, I got the shimmer onto my palette. And then this way I just swirl my little water brush. This is my same Tim Holtz little tiny detail water brush that I've been using for, goodness, a decade now. I don't even know. You could use a regular paintbrush as well and just dip it in water. It would work. So I swirl the brush in the shimmer and then into whatever ink color I want to use and paint. And that's it. Like simple. I do get each area sort of like some of it. Some of it I got each area wet first with the brush and then painted. And then once I really got going though, I didn't even bother. I would just paint directly with the color and the shimmer and then pull it out with the water brush, like to fill in each like stamp area. And that was it. Like really, really simple. The only like actual mixing I did was on like the hummingbird's tails. I mixed the shaded lilac and the wilted violet together. And I'll do a little bit of color mixing on 2 of the little blooms. And everything else, I just painted like one individual color mixed with the shimmer. So these 2 blooms, I mixed picked raspberry with a bit of carved pumpkin. And then for the other bloom, I used mustard seed and then dropped in a little bit of carved pumpkin. So it just kind of gives a fun look to them. And then everything else, like I said, and the greenery, I'll do a mix because I like mixing the greens. Why not? So I went through and did all the blooms first. I did the hummingbirds, I did the blooms, and then yeah, for the greenery, it's Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn and Shimmer, of course, which always, when I'm filming, face down like this, it looks like nothing. You can see it in real life just as is, but when filming, it doesn't look like anything's going on. But trust me, at the very end, I will tilt these in the light and use my flashlight to show like they're sparkly. And no, I do not seal anything. I don't work with sealants. I don't bother. This stays pretty well. If you really rub your fingers on it, yeah, maybe some of the shimmer will come off. But 1, don't lick the artwork. And 2, if you feel the need to like vigorously rub your hands all over a card when you receive it, well, that's on you. Literally, it will be on you. So I don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. So after I'd watercolored the panel, I did the second one the exact same way, so I didn't bother filming that. And then I used the coordinating die set to die cut all of these images. So ran those through, got everything die cut. And then for my backgrounds, I am using the Scallops pierced plate die. And this just like kind of, I think it will depend on the pressure of your die cut machine. This will either pierce right through or just leave an impression of these little scallops. So my Anna Griffin Empress machine puts through quite a bit of pressure, so it pierces pretty much all the way through. So I die cut just white cardstock with that, and this is an A2 size panel, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I took these are the notched squares, and I taped 2 of them together because these just die cut like a panel, with the notched edge and the stitch line that is very Pretty Pink Posh. I've talked about that in previous videos. But by taping 2 of them together, I created a frame instead of just a panel. And I die cut that multiple times from some sea glass cardstock and then stacked these together to build up some dimension. A person could also technically turn this into a shaker. Like could add a piece of acetate and then adhere the top frame and then add a little shaker bit. So you would need to stack together, either stack together more frames or put foam tape like behind this to give it enough dimension depending on what you use as a shaker bit. But I just wanted the frame. And then to add a little bit just more, I took Salvage Patina Distress Ink and one of these bigger Pink Fresh blending brushes. I need to use these more. I need to get in the habit of using these more. They are very nice. I've used them in a couple previous videos. My friend Mari gifted me a set and love. Like, especially if you struggle with, having harsh edges when you ink blend. These are really nice. They are very nice brushes. I'm very much enjoying them. So I did just a quick little like blend on the backgrounds with that Salvage Patina ink. And then just adhere those frames right over top. And then once I've got those adhered into place, I'm then going to work on my sentiments. And the sentiments I'm using for the card front are from the same Hummingbird Floral set. So I've got a scrap of some doll pink cardstock, and I've got one of those panels left over from die cutting the frames. And on the doll pink cardstock, on both, I use my anti-static powder tool. But for the doll pink, I'm going to stamp the scripty note word with clear embossing ink. And those I'm going to cover with some white embossing powder. And then on the sea glass panel, I'm going to stamp the little phrase with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And same thing. could just stamp it and let it dry or heat set it, but I prefer, especially with sentiments, I just, and this ink, I need to heat emboss it. So I just added clear embossing powder, because otherwise I smear it. Even if I heat set it, I manage to smear it. It just is with me. Once you figure out those sorts of little things, it's like, you know what, just let's save all the aggravation and just quickly heat emboss it. So after I did that, I'll trim the little sub-sentiment portion with a paper trimmer, and then the note word does have a coordinating wafer die in that set, so I die cut those, and then I'll come back to those later. But first I want to do the inside of my card. And my cards are top folding A2 white note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And on the inside I'm stamping sentiments from the Friend Greetings set, and I'm going to stamp that with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And this is one of the few times where I don't heat emboss, is when I'm stamping on the insides of cards. Usually I can leave that long enough to just let it dry, and I'm not having to handle it like I do like little sentiments that I'm going to cut down, adhere, etc. So I can just stamp it, let it dry. It's fine. So I stamp the sentiments, and then I stamp the hummingbirds with the Salvage Patina ink, just to give the insides a little extra something something. So got those stamped, and then I adhered the card fronts to the card bases. Once those are in place, I had kind of fiddled around with my little arrangements, and I'm going to pop all these little elements on with foam squares just to give them a bit of dimension, but also because I had stacked that frame. So then this way, using foam squares, they can fit over the frame, and it's not going to be all like lumpy or wobbly or anything like that. And then once I get all of my little elements adhered, and on the other card, I just did just a slightly different arrangement with all the same images, so they're not exactly the same. And then for the just a note sentiment, when I had die cut the note word, I also die cut scraps of the same cardstock multiple times. Because, like, as you saw, I was using foam squares and that, but I've talked about this when it comes to like sentiments, especially like scripty sentiments or areas where you got a lot of thin spots, etc. I am not gonna sit and fiddle with foam squares or foam tape, like having to trim down like little tiny pieces. So I die cut extras. I set those aside. Before I got to the sentiments splatter, black splatter, which I know freaks some people out. You can always skip it. You guys know I love my splatter. And for this, I use my black gouache. I put it on my palette, watered it down a little bit, and I'm going to splatter it on both of these backgrounds. And yeah, I like it. I really do. I went what I consider a lighter hand. Because you guys know, if you watch, a lot of my videos, I will usually do like 3 types of splatter, and it's everywhere, and I love it. But I went fairly lighter handed with this. I just wanted a bit, not a ton. So I added my splatter, and then had to let that dry. And it was when the splatter was drying that I was die cutting the scraps of the pink cardstock for the sentiments. So I added my splatter. I'm going to wash off my brush, my palette. Even though gouache can be reactivated, etc., the black gouache especially does stain. As you can see, my palette's all stained from it. That's fine. And then I let the gouache dry, and then stacking sentiments. So since I used 3 layers for that frame on the card front, I did 3 layers for the sentiment. I adhered them together first, and then I kind of just held it where I plan on adhering the actual sentiment. And then that way I can see exactly what I need to trim off. Because I find this a lot faster than sitting and trimming little strips, little thin, tiny strips of foam tape. Because like I said, I don't have the patience for that. So I trimmed off the parts that overlapped the frame. And then I can adhere these to the back of the actual heat embossed sentiment. And then that way it's popped up. It's flush. It works. Love it. So got all those 2 pieces adhered to the back of the sentiment, and then I can just put adhesive on the back of this and pop it right into place on the card front. And then for the little sub-sentiment portion, this is one of the few times I just trimmed it with scissors instead of my paper trimmer. I was feeling confident. I've talked about this. I can barely cut a straight line anymore. Not with scissors anyway, but every once in a while. So I trim those down and then pop those into place onto these cards, as you can see. And then I dug through my stash and pulled out, these are old watermelon little rhinestones from Pretty Pink Posh. So dug those out of my stash and added a few of these to each of the cards. And once I was happy with the placement, I can then pick them up with my little embellishment wand and just adhere them into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue. And then once all of these are in place, I just got to let the glue dry and these cards will be complete. So we've got these cute little images and watercolor and texture and dimension and splatter and bling. All of the things. These were fun. And here I'll show with my flashlight so you can actually see the sparkle. Ugh, love. Love. My inner magpie is very happy. Oh my goodness. So, yeah. This set is so adorable. These little hummingbirds are so cute. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the supplies I used. I'll link the new release. You can check it out because there's, of course, a bunch of Pretty Pink Posh, like die sets and stencils and shaker bits, all the fun things. So I'll have links to all of that in the description box below. You can just expand it and check it out if you're interested. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. I love it. It helps and I appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!